Good morning. All right, do we have some people in here already? 10 o'clock, we go. Barbara and Alice, good morning. If you guys can hear me, let me know in the chat. Thanks. That'll get started in a second. Let's have a look. You can? Perfect. All right, I'm just going to start sharing my screen. And cool. All right. So we are going to talk about Google My Business today. I recognize both of your names. Barbara, we've had a session, and Alice, I saw you last week, or was it Tuesday? I can't even remember. One of those two. All right. Let me just jump straight into Google My Business. Now, do you guys have a Google My Business account yourselves, or is this brand new to you? All new. Okay, perfect. Right. Okay. All right. So the reason why we do these Google My Business ones is because Google My Business is pretty much one of the best ways for small businesses to get some traction on Google. You've just set it up, haven't used it. All right, cool. All right. I'm just going to jump straight into this and show you what we would be looking for to set up a Google My Business profile, but also make sure we make the most out of it. All right, so if we're logging into Google, obviously you want to make sure that you're logged into your Google account on the right-hand side. I prefer Chrome because it all ties in nicely with Google, but feel free whatever browser you want to use, but make sure that you're logged into your Google account and it's the right one, because quite often we see that people log into the wrong account because they got multiple email addresses and then they can't find their business profile. There's a few ways to get to your business profile. First and easiest one is simply just go to the homepage of Google and search for Google My Business. And that'll come up once you're logged in with this section here, which basically is only visible to you. The other way is to use the little grid on the very right-hand side at the top, and there's an app for Google Business Profile. And if I click on that one, essentially what it's going to do, it take me to the old version, which looked like this, although that's no longer relevant because Google has moved everything to the web. I'm just logging into one of my accounts set up. We manage a few small client accounts. I'm just going to pick one of these, and you'll see that Google basically now pushes me to the web instead of the old interface. You might not even have seen the old interface if you're brand new to this. And feel free to ask me questions as well during the session, because I will check the chat from time to time. All right, what we're going to look for here is one of my clients, my private clients, and they're a tile cleaning company here in Perth. Well, when I say company, he's a one-man band, but essentially I'll show you one of the reasons why it works so well for them. If I search for the main keyword, tile cleaning Perth, which is one of the main keywords in his category, you'll see here, typically on the search result pages, you'll have some ads. Obviously, Google Ads is paid to play, so you're going to have an advertising budget for that. Then the second prominent listing here is the Google My Business section. As you can see, he's actually #1 for his keyword. And then obviously you've got the organic results down below, and he is still, I think he's #4 or 5 at the moment. So we did SEO, like he's been with me for about 10 years. So we did a lot of SEO in the first couple of years. Haven't really done any SEO for 4 years for him, maybe even 5. And he's slowly dropping down the rankings, but you can see after this many years, he's still like in the middle of the first page. But we don't need it really, because essentially the business profile is driving all of his bookings. So if we go through this session here, you're going to have a few options here, right? So edit profile, read reviews, messages, etc., etc. So I'm just going to start at the very top. You can probably guess, because he's #1 on the rankings there, that he's actually getting quite a few hits and inquiries just simply through his business profile, which is completely free. Now he's probably booked out 4 to 6 weeks in advance all year round. So it's great for him. Doesn't work for every business, but for this specific business, it's fantastic. Okay, so if we go to the performance, so very top left, you'll see like a little eye icon and it says how many views you've had. You can click on that link or you can click on the performance link. They both open the same tab. Now, performance-based, we pick the last 6 months in this case, and you can see the months here: August, September, October, November, December. And this is interactions. So an interaction is basically, if you have a question about this, you can click on the little eye. An interaction is when people call, message, make a booking, or ask for directions, etc., from your profile. So this is not just how many people have seen the actual profile, it's about how many people have interacted with the profile. So you can see in that last 6-month period, nearly 12,000 people saw his business profile, and that only comes up when people are searching for specific keywords. So out of that 12,000, he had about 667 people interact so far. And you can see there's about 134 people in August, 118 in September, then it was busy in October with nearly 200, back down to 125 in November. December was a bit of a, what do you call it? December was a bit of a slow month, and it looks like January is even slower. So we might have to check into to see what happens, because it is already the 5th, and this typically should be a little bit higher. So I might have to do some investigating after this call. But yeah, essentially his business profile is providing him with every single lead that he could ever deal with. To stay on this first tab here, some interesting information. We can see how many people use a mobile device versus a desktop. Google Maps, that kind of stuff is all set up in here as well. So you can sort of see the breakdown: 60% people on mobile, 40% on desktop, which is typically higher. More people are using their mobile device these days. So we see something closer to 80 or 90% mobile across multiple clients. For this, in this regard, yeah, there's still a lot of people on desktop, which just could mean that it's a different demographic or a different time of day that they're looking for his type of service. Now, the interesting thing here is the searches that will actually show us what Google is showing the business profile for. If I click on the See More section, we can see a whole list of keywords and the number of engagements that he's had based on that keyword. So if somebody searches for grout cleaner, 566 people took action on his profile in the last 6 months. Grout cleaning Perth, tile cleaning Perth, tile and grout cleaning Perth, etc. So you can see how it sort of goes down, right? So the main keywords are at the very top, and it will run down straight to anything less than 15. But yeah, this is a great sort of way to figure out what are people looking for, what keywords should I be trying to rank for. So you can take this data and use it for your SEO as well. So you can say, for example, look, on my website, I should really start using these keywords in my titles or my pages or just in my copy overall, because obviously Google has already seen that this is where a lot of people are searching for. So really important information to glean and understand what your market is looking and searching for and what you're getting found for. Now, there's going to be some random things in here as well, even some typos: carpet cleaners, Como, clean slate cleaning. Now, because the keyword cleaning is in there, or clean, typically Google probably shows it to see if this is actually relevant. The way Google works is they try to show people some different, like obviously the main links and pages and websites and profiles that they want to show, but sometimes they'll try to mix it up a little bit to see how people respond to a different listing. Now, somebody would search for clean slate cleaning and they see the tile and grout cleaning Perth, chances are they might not click, but Google is basically testing to see if that would be relevant, because if it would be relevant, he's going to get more engagement over time, simply because Google is going to start showing his profile for those types of keywords. Anyway, that's enough about keywords. If we go back out here, so we've seen the numbers, the stats here. Now, these products here is only relevant when you actually have products listed on your page, on your profile. In this case, if I go to his profile, you can see here that this is basically the Google profile that he's got. And treat this as a mini website, right? So this is essentially a one-page website, if you look at it that way, that you can use to add additional information. So You can have products, and we put a product in a while ago, a couple of years ago, to sort of test how that would work for him and if it actually worked, and it doesn't. But we're not changing anything on his profile because he's number one, and any change we make, there's not going to be any benefit for us to be had simply because, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. All right. What I want to go through is the next section here. So to give you an indication, when people click on the profile and there's a button that says call, if somebody clicks on that, it actually gets attributed to this section here, which is your call section. This does not include calls that come directly from his website. So if somebody might actually say, well, I'm not going to click on call here, but I'm going to click on his website, and then from his website to make a phone call, it doesn't get added to this number here. So on top of what you see here, he also gets basically phone calls directly from his website that are not measured in here, but they're measured in like Google Analytics and stuff. Does it make sense so far? No worries, Abby. All right. Yeah, you can watch the recording for sure. Okay, so then the next one here is messages, and messages is essentially an option that shows up when you're on a mobile device, for example, and you open up his profile. You should see another button here that says chat now or get quote or something along those lines. And what happens is people can send him a quick message. And this is an online chat. And essentially what happens is, let me just see if we can, actually, I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, this is essentially, we turned this off for a long time because he didn't want to use it, because he's an old-fashioned guy. He doesn't really want to do any emails and that kind of stuff. He just wants to get people on the phone and then he can make a, excuse me, then he can actually do like a quote on the phone because he needs to know certain things like how many rooms need to be done, what's the size, that kind of stuff. We did turn messages back on because what we did, I'll actually show you now, what we've done is instead of him having to respond directly to those messages to say, hey, if you get a message, you need to start talking back to these people, we set up a automation. And an automation basically means that if I go into the chat settings, there's a welcome message, right? And what it means is that as soon as somebody opens up the chat and they say hello or hi, can I get a quote or whatever it is, this message will go straight into their chat box, because they're going to get a reply back on email or directly in the chat. And you can see here that number, the phone number that we have here, it will be clickable on a mobile device. So basically, we're giving people the next step if they still want to get in touch with Scott. So he's sort of capturing some of the people who he would otherwise have never talked to, because if he's not actually on the chat and he's like a day late with responding, they might have already found someone else. So this is actually basically giving people an option to say, well, give me a quick call here, or even send me a text message. So super handy. Some other things we can do here is add some frequently asked questions when they start the chat. And what it means is that, quite often, let's say you're a store inside a shopping mall and people don't necessarily know where you are. So the question could be, whereabouts in Westfield are you located? And then you can have a question, an answer straight away that says, hey, we're in between, I don't know, between Coles and JB Hi-Fi or whatever sort of, businesses you're close to. This will give people the opportunity to immediately understand more about your product, your service, your location, and it just increases the chances of them turning into an actual client. All right, so that's your frequently asked questions within the chat. There's also a frequently asked questions or questions and answers in the normal profile section, which is this one here. That's not the same. That's basically when people ask a question in general on the profile, and you can see here there's one question which is not super relevant. This is just purely a single person who's looking for something in specific for their situation. But sometimes you'll have questions that say, hey, is there parking on site? Is it paid or free parking? Do you have Wi-Fi on the premises, or whatever it might be that people want to know about your business before they come down? That's the kind of stuff you can put in here. The other thing you can use this for is you can actually ask your own questions, right? So you can basically put your own questions on, and obviously based on what you frequently get asked by your clients. And what it does, not only will it help you with helping them, it also gives you the opportunity to use some keywords. And this is more an SEO sort of, not a trick, but it's more like a bit of an SEO hack, because you can use this. Remember, I said treat it as a mini website. All the content that you're going to be putting up here, so if we say, hey, do you clean tiles in Perth CBD, for example. And what happens is this keyword, clean tiles or Perth CBD, Google will pick that up and understand that, hey, this is probably highly relevant, because the answer that we can give after this, once we post this question, we can say, yes, we we do tile cleaning in Perth and all surrounding areas, for example. So it just reiterates to Google that, hey, we're definitely on the right track when it comes to these keywords that we just talked about. Where are they? Like these keywords here, we would basically reiterate the fact to Google, hey, we really are all about this location and this type of service. Does that make sense? What do you do for B2B? Message tool is relevant. Yeah, look, messaging tool is always relevant. It just depends on the message that you put in there, right? So if it's B2B, make sure that there is a message relevant to get people to the next step. You can definitely put something in like a link. You can say, hey, if we don't reply to the chat in the next couple of minutes, we might be away from our keyboard or away from our computer. But here's a link if you want to know more about this specific service, or here's an email to send to our salespeople, or whatever it might be. So make sure that it needs to be relevant. The messaging needs to be relevant, because essentially what's happening is that person on the other end who just went to Google to try and find a business that is specific to what you're doing. We just want to make sure that we don't just leave them hanging. We want to give them, always want to give somebody a next step to move to, because otherwise they might just drop out and say, well, nobody responded to my message in 5 minutes, I'm going to go and find something else. It's very easy to hit the back button on Google and find the next result. So always make sure that you use the maximum opportunity of getting that line of communication open. All right, so back to calls. We just did the calls. Back to messages. We just looked at the messages. I'll show you some of the example messages that he gets. And or if you hear some weird noises in the background, it's school holidays and there's two gamers on my couch playing video games and sneezing. So hopefully they're not too loud. All right, so some of these quotes here, right? So you can see, for example, this person here on December the 7th requested a quote. They hit the chat button on Google, and Akshita Patel was asking, I need to get some cleaning in Alexander Heights. Now, this is not very detailed, but basically he's getting, they're getting this message, hey, best to call Scott on this number, right? So once again, we're really trying to get them to click that number and get booked. I'll try to find another one here. Deep clean service in Beachboro. So this needs to be, this is somebody who wants to get a quote for tiles and grout for their house living area. So this is a little bit more interesting. We also can see that sometimes people will leave their phone number. So this gives Scott the opportunity to call back. Okay, so yeah, it's super convenient to have that option, because you're going to get more leads, basically. All right, back to the insights here. Now, we went through messages. The next one is bookings. Not relevant for Scott particularly, but if you were to have like an online service where people have to book a session with you, like on Zoom, or they have to make a booking before they come into your clinic, or whatever sort of situation you might need to have a booking link for, that can show up in here. And what that would look like is, once again, at the very top here, there'll be an additional button that says book schedule a call, or make a booking, or whatever sort of name they give that comes up there. And then that would automatically take you to like a Calendly booking page, or a Zoom booking page, or whatever booking page software you use. And then website clicks. So this is purely people that from the profile, once again, up here, they clicked on the website link. And I went to the website. I'll actually open the website. I'll have you know that we did not make this website. This is It's like from 1999, 1998, whatever. But once again, because he's ranking really well, we're just not changing anything, because chances are if we make any big changes to this website, like an overhaul, a new design, he's going to lose his rankings, and there's no point in having a pretty website if people aren't seeing it, right? So it's very straightforward, and he has this big Phonos number here that you see. If I click on it, it'll open up FaceTime in my case, or on your mobile device, it'll just open up your phone app. So he gets quite a bit of calls through as well, which do not get added to that initial call tally over here. So once again, this is purely the calls made from his profile. But you can see once a lot of people click through, so he gets about 100, 170, so roughly about 100 people on average that come through. This is actually low because it's probably the first week. It looks like it's got, yeah, it's 4 weeks. So in 3 days' time, this should go up to 30 or 40-ish. But yeah, you can see a lot of people, actually will click through. And then a percentage of those people will still click on this call button. So you can imagine that he gets quite a few calls simply from having his business profile up and running. Does it all make sense so far? And is everybody still with me? Feel free to ask any more questions, because that's how you get the most out of this session, most likely. All right. Okay, so if we're gonna close this up here, we've seen the stats, and based on these stats that we just looked at, is this something that you believe could work for your business? Like, if you would be in the top 3 on your specific keyword on Google, so you're going to show up in where are we? If you're going to show up in this 3-pack here, as we call it, you believe that this could actually drive enough relevant traffic to your business, or is this not something that would be useful for you? Keep in mind, it's completely free. Yeah, no, it is. A lot of people are surprised about the power of Google My Business or Google business profiles, because people tend to just treat it as like just another listing, like a yellow pages thing. But it's really not. It's really powerful, specifically because Google really gives it a high place on the first page. It's essentially the top spot, right? Because like only 10% of people will click on ads. That's sort of over the years that's been calculated. And imagine that Google is still a multi-billion-dollar company. The 90% of their profit gets made out of these ad links. And if only 10% of people who use Google click on this, you can imagine how much traffic comes through, right? Now, because typically a few years ago, this business section was not available. It was either ads, and then you would go straight into the organic results. So you wanted to do SEO, and you wanted to get like, SEO agencies, freelancers, specialists to help you get onto that first page. And this is how Scott met me. 10 years ago when we started doing this for him, like I said, we got him to #1, and he was on #1 for a couple of years, and then he's slowly dropping down, simply because all these other guys up here are probably still actively paying and doing SEO, and they've got an agency or in-house person doing this for them. So SEO used to be the #1 go-to. It still is, because if the problem is, this is a location-based business. If I were to say tile cleaning Joondalup, the results completely change, right? So he won't be in here. As you can see, this is basically not him getting any traffic, but you can see some of these other guys are still on the first page for the same keyword. So SEO is broader, a lot more traffic, but for a small business, it makes much more sense to just have a local presence. All right, cool. All right, so if we go back out of this then, and back into the management side of things, then you can see here as well, by the way, if you go on the bottom left-hand side, there's quite a few results pages. So no results here. Okay, that's interesting. Hold on, what happened? Yeah, it's quite a few results pages, and it's the same with normal Google. If you're on page 2 or 3, it's hard for anybody to actually go and find you, right? Because most people will go first page, and if they can't find it, they would rather go back or try a different search query rather than trying to go to page 2, 3, and 4. So yeah, it is important to be seen on Google for any business. So make the most out of it. It is available to you for free. So really, there's no reason not to use it to its fullest extent. All right. Can you connect a specific page to a specific keyword or location? When you say page, like we're talking about the Google My Business profile, because that's only a single page essentially, right? So you can definitely, if you have a specific page on your website that's about a location, you can create a profile and have your link, your website page link here as a inner link to the page that you wanted to get people to. But keep in mind, you can only have one profile per location. So you're going to have to do some magic stuff with getting different addresses to get verified. So yes, you could have multiple Google My Business profiles running for different locations. Like I would have maybe different cities, like, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, whatever. And then that would be the same business, but keep in mind, every location needs to have its own unique address, because Google will verify if the address is actually real. So that might be a bit of a hassle, but it is possible. Does it work with Shopify? You can link the business profile to Shopify. So, you can basically set Shopify as your main homepage. So yes, that would work. So in your case, Barbara, if you're looking for, t-shirt store, I forgot your location, but t-shirt store near me, people could be searching, your profile could come up, and then people can click on the link, which then your Shopify store. So yes, that would work. All right, so if I'm going to go quickly go through the sections that the public will see. So we just covered the call to actions, obviously the photos. Now I'll get to the photos in a bit because that's pretty important as well. But yeah, you can see the photos, the website, and keep in mind, Google does change things around from time to time. So they're always testing to see what works best based on the data that they get back. So make sure that you keep an eye on your profile at least once a month. Check in, make sure that Google hasn't taken things away or added new stuff that you haven't used yet. So the important things here, and you can basically deduct from the fact that whatever is at the very top, Google deems most important, right? So what service options do you have? Which areas do you service? Because obviously this is tied into Google Maps, so it's really important that your service is represented. Your opening hours are always important, and your phone number, so your contact details. Products, like I said, in this case, this doesn't work for him, but we're not removing it, so ignore that for now. If you have Shopify, you can put your products on your Google My Business. You can definitely add a new product and say, look, whatever product you have, specific t-shirt, photo, what sort of category. So based on the categories that you've set up, if you're like an online retail store or whatever you might set as a category, you can put your pricing on there, price range or price, and you can have like a order online or buy button, call to action, and that could then directly go into your link. So when I say buy, you can see now this link has been enabled. So your product category, your actual product would be shown on Google on your profile, and when people click on the buy button that shows up, this would be the inner link on your Shopify store directly to that product. So yeah, highly recommended. All right, close that one up. The next section here is obviously reviews. This is important, not so much for ranking, because you'll see, for example, that we've only got 26 reviews, but we are outranking. Go back to page 1. Yeah, we are outranking. If I go back to this page, one more. Yeah. We've only got 26 reviews, but we are outranking these guys who have 377 reviews. So, quite often people say, oh, you need to have more reviews because it helps with ranking. It's not really the case. And this proves it. Like, even these guys have more than 12 times the amount of reviews that they're number 3. So reviews, the main reason you want to have your review for is when people make a decision, right? If I visit this page for the first time and I look at this and I can see, okay, these are all 5-star reviews, chances are that I'm not going to go for someone who has like less than 3 stars for whatever, unless they're like really close and the next available option is like too far out, then I might just say, well, whatever, I'm just going to go with the 3-star. But yeah, the 5-star rating really indicates that this is a trusted business, and I want to make sure that I actually get somebody, when I'm going to pay somebody, I want to make sure it's at least a 5-star or In this case, 4.9. He's got a 2-star review. I'm not even sure where that came from. Reviews are funny. Reason being that I quite often see that people or business owners get a little bit defensive when somebody leaves a bad review. Keep in mind that, you know, you always want to keep it professional, be courteous and say, look, really sorry that you've had this experience with us. We'd love to make it right. Please reach out to, here's our email address. You know, keep it nice, keep it civil, and because everyone else on the internet can read that, how you respond to your reviews as well. I'm sure we've all seen examples where, you know, business owners get really fired up and it's like, well, you know, you're a terrible client and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And, you know, they really get pick a fight with people. And the problem is, if I see that, it's entertaining, but I'm not going to think, oh, great, I'm going to, you know, reach out to this business and see if they want to take my money. So always keep it very civil and acknowledge the issue. That's an important thing, because everybody knows that everybody always sometimes screws up, and it just happens, right? So we're all humans. So don't be afraid and to basically reach out to those people to say, yep, we'd love to make up to you. You can see here 3 years ago, Scott did, there's a 2-star review, unfortunately, and this sometimes could be a competitor as well. Like, you know, it's not all, 1 second, is this paid SEO services purely based on keywords? This can be a paid SEO service. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, you can see here with the review, for example, this person left a 2-star review, and sometimes what happens, either it could be a competitor who's just trying to bring someone else's reviews down, unfortunately. It could just be somebody who's in a bad mood. Quite often it's somebody who's leaving the review for the wrong business, right? So they might have a bad experience with a specific business that they try to reach out to and get a quote from, and they got treated badly or whatever. And they'll go back, they're angry, they go back to Google and they try to, you know, replicate the search that I did. And they sometimes mistake the profile and they leave a bad review. So over the years, we've had a couple of 1-star reviews, and then we reached out to those people and said, hey, look, I'm not sure what's going on. And then they all went like, oh, I'm so sorry, this is for a different business. And they basically were kind enough to remove it again. So definitely important to keep track of that. Now, unfortunately, this person never responded. But yeah, you can see Scott says, hey, we have no records of doing any work with you. Can you please give us a call? I can guarantee all the work. Look forward to hearing from you. So he kept it nice and friendly and professional. And even though it's a 2-star review, people could see this, that he's been very reasonable. And this is a very good reason to say, look, you know, sorry, but I think you got the wrong guy. Anyway. Another thing that you probably want to do is engage with every one of these reviews. So, you know, give it a like. Like I said, Scott really doesn't care too much about the internet stuff. Hold on, give me just 1 second to get some water. Yeah, Scott doesn't really care too much about the internet. He just wants to get his work done. He doesn't even use like a CRM or anything. He just got a big black work diary, and everything goes pen to paper. So anyway, so, you know, typically you want to engage with these, and even if it's a bad or a good review, just reply and say, hey, thanks so much for, you know, the opportunity to work with you. It was a great job, whatever it might be, because once again, this gives you a little bit of an SEO hack. You can add more keywords in there. So yeah, anyway, so that's the review section. Keep in mind that once again, it doesn't really impact your rankings that much, but it's more about if somebody hits this page here. Let's say there's a 5-star review business and the other ones are both 3 or 4 stars. Chances are the 5-star review is going to get the click before the other 2. Does that all make sense? It should make sense. Yeah. All right. Back into the business here. Scroll down a little bit further. So beneath the reviews, there is your description. And this is the only part where you can sort of have like a little bit more text, 750 characters to be exact, to fill out a little bit about, you know, a bit of an elevator pitch, or, you know, why people should actually reach out to you. Because if somebody's not quite sure, they've seen the photos, but they don't really do anything for them, you obviously see the generic information that they can reach out to you. They've read the reviews, but there might not be that many reviews, so they're still undecided. The next section here will then let you let them decide whether they want to reach out to you or not. So one of the main things we do here is we try to use our main keywords once or twice. Perth tile and grout cleaning. So Google is smart enough to figure out that this could be a combination of tile cleaning, grout cleaning, Perth. Obviously, they understand how that works. We also look at, once again, we added a keyword here, tile and grout cleaning. So we try to be a little bit smart about it. Obviously, residential, commercial. Make sure that this is not spammy. You don't stuff it with keywords, but it needs to be easily readable by a human being. Because what Google tries to do is emulate what a human would do. At the end of the day, Google's business is to be relevant for their visitors. And if they're going to start showing bad results, people are going to start using Bing and DuckDuckGo and whatever search engines are out there. So it's really important for Google to make sure that they give their users the best possible answers. And yeah, this is why you want to make sure that this stays readable by human beings. Like, yeah, don't try to be clever about it. That's basically what I'm trying to say. All right. Now there's a section here for posting, and we can have, we did a post like when COVID sort of just hit a couple of years ago. I can't believe that's a few years ago now already, 3 years in fact. We had a quick update to say, hey, yes, we're still open, because nobody sort of knew what was open anymore. Everything got closed down. So we did a quick post here where people can click on call now. Hey, Perth, we're still open. 670 people saw this, no clicks, but yeah, this is really kind of a little update. What you can do here, depending on your type of business, treat this as a blog. Almost treat it as a blog post, right? So you can have like a little bit more information to say. Actually, I'm going to get to this point. Hold on, let me just jump out of this because there's an easier way to get to this. Yeah, and then some of the web results here. This is essentially like Google's last ditch effort to say, hey, if people went all the way through this profile, they read everything, but they're still undecided, chances are this might not have been relevant for that specific search. So now they want to give us a few more options to say, well, why don't you try these? Sorry, let's some more water. I should not be drinking warm sugary drinks before these sessions because my throat gets all sticky. Okay, no other questions so far? It doesn't make sense that Google now tries to, in the last ditch effort, try to send people to one of the next available options. So Google is really trying to figure out, okay, if none of this is relevant, okay, how about you go to here? Because Google doesn't want to lose that click. Because essentially what happens is if Google now gets this click on one of these next results, they're going to have a happy user, they're going to be able to show more ads, etc., and so forth. All right, cool. So now how do we edit this? And you can either hit the manage your business profile button, or we can basically go into, when we start off with, sorry, Google My Business. We can basically go back to this section here. And then obviously for this specific account, I got a couple of other ones that I use. Oh, I got a new 5-star review. That's nice. Hold on, let me quickly check that. Can I see that? No, I'll check it later. That's nice. All right, so back into this one here. So let's say you won't see all those profiles. You're only going to see this one here because obviously if you only have one profile, Google's only going to show you this. Now, a couple of options here. So edit profile is where we basically manage the majority of the information that we just looked at on the publicly facing profile. Once again, we don't update anything on his profile. He's number one for his main keywords. So anything that we do could endanger that. But yeah, you can see Google, for example, quite often changes categories, right? So they used to have what's called broad categories. They've no longer supported since. They make changes like Google giveth and Google taketh. But yeah, they don't delete it, but they're basically urging us to make a change based on the new categories that they have. And I'll put this link in the chat. Is the post going to be deleted automatically? It stays on the Google page unless after several years. Obviously, in this case, until recently, I think about 3 months ago, that post was still visible. So I think Google at a certain time gives it an expiration date. So the post is still available, but it won't be shown on the profile anymore. But yeah, if you treat it as a blog, if you put something up there once a week, could be a new collection, could be new opening hours, like whatever is sort of relevant, you can put that up there. And once again, treat it with the keyword intent as well to make sure that you put the right keywords in. I just put a link in there, and that link essentially will show you which categories are mainly supported at the moment. So have a look at that if you're interested. Okay. Now, speaking of categories, there's two major differences between categories and services. Category is essentially the core service that you provide, right? So whether that's cleaning or an online store or, a dentistry, whatever it might be, that's essentially your core service. But then underneath, for example, dentistry, you can have tooth extractions, root canals, fillings, bridges, whatever sort of stuff they do. What I would always suggest is have a maximum of 2 core categories, simply because if you add up to 5, you're kind of diluting, you do a little bit of everything. And if everything is the same, if you have a competitor who has a similar profile, but they only use 1 or 2 core categories, I believe Google favors that one over the one that has 5 different categories, simply because it's more focused and it's more targeted. And remember, they're trying to be relevant, right? So if I were to go to the 2 different profiles, and one of them does, dentistry, but also hair and makeup or whatever sort of cosmetic stuff, Google's probably going to assume that, hey, this might be a medical center instead of a specialist. So try to keep it to 1 or 2 mainly. And the easiest way to do this, right? So if I delete this and I would start typing, or online store maybe. So online store, if I start typing, does that exist? No. Shop. No. Okay, so if I use the keyword shop, you can see that it automatically populates options here. Well, are you a wine store, wine shop, candle shop, music shop, etc.? So it's pretty easy to get started here to find, a design agency. I can't put it to design agency, design engineer, etc., graphic designer, web designer. So there's a bunch of stuff that potentially would fit, but don't go overboard. Use 1 or 2 max, and that's it. I'm just going to hit cancel. Oh, by the way, if you don't have a category, just add your additional category in there. Yeah, just cancel, because once again, we're not going to update it, even though it looks like really urgent and we need to update it. We're not going to. Sorry, Google. This is the 750 character section that I mentioned. So this is where you put your elevator pitch, your description with some of your keywords in there to make sure that there's a good balance between SEO keywords and giving people what they need to read. This is really where it says we're a specialist, we're professional, we're trained, we're industry leading. This instills confidence in the consumer. So hit cancel. Opening date is important because you can see he said it in 2008, and the way that would show up on Google is that if I search for his profile again, you might have seen it already. It will give you an option here to say, hey, we've been in business for 10 plus years. We've been in business for 15 plus years. There's 5 plus years. So that's another indicator, right? So if it says even if you have all these 5-star reviews, but you've only been in business for a year, chances are somebody sees another profile that has 5-star reviews, but they've been in business for 10 years. It's a signal, an indicator that this is obviously a steady business and it's been going for a long time. It just instills a little bit more trust. All right, we've got how much time? 15 minutes left. These sessions are always too short, but I'll try to cover it all. Obviously, contact information, phone numbers. People sometimes ask me, do I need to have a local number, local area number, an 08 number in Perth or whatever it might be? To that, I normally say, look, anybody can get a phone number anywhere. And Google is aware of this. Like, I can get a phone number in Sydney through Skype or Twilio, or there's a number of things that I can use to just get a phone number in a state. So Google does not really look at it as, hey, this business must definitely be in that area, because they understand that people can just get a number from anywhere. But yeah, just be easy about it. So you can have your phone number. In Scott's case, that's his primary number. Most people these days just use a mobile device. Nobody has a landline, or very few people. Businesses, they might have a dedicated reception with a landline, but even then that might get forwarded to a mobile device. You can even use 1-800, 1-300 numbers. So if you have 1, 2, or 3 numbers, that's fine. Just add all of them. Just make sure that it's a number that is always available, as in like you don't want to get people calling this number and then it's not available, or the person on the other side is basically not there. We've run some lead campaigns for clients in the past where we were spending thousands of dollars a month on Google Ads, and they gave us a number. And after 2 weeks, they're complaining that, hey, we're not getting any leads. And it turned out that the person who was in charge of that phone put it on silent in a desk drawer somewhere and really sort of never looked at it. So yeah, that was a big lesson for them to say, hey, we really need to be on top that if somebody reaches out that we're paying for, that we are going to be available to answer that phone. Yeah, look, 1-300 numbers are fine, honestly. If you want to keep a mobile number, like I use 2 different like numbers for myself. Like I've got a personal mobile number and a business mobile number, so I keep it separate. It only costs me like $30 a month, so whatever you would like to do. Dirty Grout here, that's obviously his website. So you put your website in here. In case of Shopify, you just put your Shopify link in there. Short name is no longer relevant, so we could delete this, but once again, we're not making any changes to his profile because it is performing. Now, the important part here is business location. People quite often ask me, especially micro businesses, that say, "Look, I work from home. I don't want people to know where I live." Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. So we can either switch on the business address here to say this is where we're actually operating from. Now, this could be a virtual address or a co-working space or whatever you want to do. Hold on 1 second. But essentially, you can turn this off after you've verified and just say, look, instead of having my address on there, what I'm going to use is service areas. And this gives us the opportunity to still tell Google what areas are we servicing, where should we be ranking essentially. So, because quite a few people say, like, well, if I hide my address, how does Google know where I am? And it's like, trust me, Google knows where you are. They're just not showing it to anybody who uses their service. But yeah, you can basically turn that off, switch it off. The important part here is to make sure that you cover your service areas. Give me 1 second, please. Sorry, the gamers are making a lot of noise in the background. So the service areas here are important. So what I would normally do is first and foremost, use your direct area or your service location, but always add in the major city as well. So in this case, obviously we're in Perth. So Swan, Armadale, Mundaring, and Surbiton, Jarrahdale is essentially his sort of core service, but we also add Perth because even though Perth would cover all of these anyway, it's like an umbrella, and we want to make sure that if we wouldn't have Perth in there, for example, chances are that if we were to search for tile cleaning in Perth, we might not necessarily come up on number 1. So we always want to make sure that we basically double up on the areas plus the overall city, whether that's going to be the Gold Coast, Brisbane, Queensland, like whatever you sort of have as a service location. All right, canceling that. Opening hours is very important because essentially there's nothing worse than going to an online store, or not an online store, but a brick and mortar store, driving 30 minutes because Google told you that they're open, and then for some reason they're closed. Like that could invoke bad reviews, or that person is not going to be happy with you, and they're never going to turn into a client. So always make sure that this is up to date. So if you are a one-man band and you're going to go on holidays, before you go, just make sure that your opening hours reflect that, right? Simply because it's a good experience for your potential new clients. More for the business, this is really irrelevant. This really comes down to certain things like whatever's hot in the news. So obviously when COVID was a big deal, it would say in here like, we can only have X amount of people in store. You need to have a mask. We're not open on this day. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Maybe if there's something big happening around the world in the news, then Google might open up an option here that says, hey, this is an important thing, right? Other than that, that's pretty much your business information. Now, if you need any help or support, always make sure that there's 3 little dots that are stacked up there. You can click on those. You can click on the help and support section there. And this will basically give you a bunch of options to get help. There's one here, which is contact us. That's essentially Google asking you for filling out a form. And then depending on your answers, they might actually give you the option to chat to an actual Google person. So that's 3 dots. And yeah, I've used it quite a few times myself for random reasons, but instead of trying to Google it yourself, literally just go to their support and they'll fix it for you on the spot. All right, now we've got the review section we covered. We've covered the messages. Photos is another one that's I've mentioned. I'll quickly show you why that is important. Now in this new, I'm not even sure what is, that shouldn't even be in there. I'm not sure what that happened. Cancel, delete. Yeah, so essentially, you can see here, for example, we put a photo up on the 21st, and I told Scott every time he uploads a photo, make sure that the title of the photo, ceramic tile cleaning in Port Kennedy. He tries to do it. He did another one here. He named the photo. I just did another tile and grout cleaning job in Trig. So, tile and grout cleaning Trig, that's essentially the keyword that we're going for. So because his business or his type of service is basically, it's great for before and after photos. And the funny thing is, if I would go to Google, and also, this is Bing. What is it default to Bing? Tile cleaning post. No, the thing is, sometimes people don't just click on the first page, they will actually go to the images section. And the images section, you can see there's quite a few similar photos here. And the reason you would want to use a lot of photos in your profile is, we click on that photo because I can go like, hey, that looks exactly like my floor. That's sort of the tiles that I've got. And, I'm interested in what happens. I can click on that one and I can click on the photo. And now immediately it opens up their page. They've obviously created an inner page for tile and grout cleaning a person. They're trying to rank for this one. And, obviously this is a great way to capture additional traffic. So photos are important. Make sure that you label them correctly. You give them the right file name. Don't upload a photo that's like, when it comes out of your camera, it's got like a weird name .jpeg. Always make sure that you rename it to the file that is descriptive of what you can see in the photo. All right, so photos are important. Couple of things. So we got the products here. We're not going to click into that because we just looked at that. Now here's the distinction between your categories and your services, like I mentioned before. So under my cleaning category, I can that's my primary category, cleaning service. And then under there, cleaning, deep clean, commercial premises, etc. We probably actually should make some changes to this because it's not really cleaning or deep clean because that's not really relevant anymore. Now, some of these changes are based on feedback from Google users or other sources. And that means that somebody might actually go into the profile, and I'll show you what that looks like. If I go into someone else's profile, there is an option for me to make a suggestion, or there should be, maybe, I'd have to double check that, but they used, oh, here you go, suggest an edit. So if I can say, well, actually, I want to suggest an edit that, this is actually a different, I'm not going to obviously do this, but this is actually a computer shop. And what happens is the more people will actually make an edit or a suggestion, it'll come up under our profile to say, hey, people have suggested that this is probably what you should be adding in. So we're not going to do anything here, but that's your services. You can go crazy, put as many services as you like, treat it as keyword categories where people will understand that this is what your business is all about. Bookings, like I said, this is essentially where you add your booking link if you need to. The Q&As, like I mentioned before, this is where you can ask questions like, is there free parking on site, etc., and so forth. Ask for reviews. I'll get to that in a second. Add update. So we can have the, like I said, the blog post that we can put in there, 1,500 characters. You can have some call to action if you'd like to. You can say, well, I want to have an order online, and there's going to be a link to your actual website. Cancel, yes. We can also do a offer. So there might be a limited time offer that you have, in the first week of January, 20% off everything in store, whatever it might be. You can add details. Once again, treat it as a blog post, but in this case with a sales intent. Then the last one here is a event. Let's say you're hosting a workshop or whatever it might be, you've got an event happening, you can put that in there. Reason you want to use this is that it also sometimes comes up in Google Events. When people are looking for certain things to do, hold on 1 second. Google. Maybe events near me. So these events here, this tab here, if you would have an event set up on your Google Business profile and people search for events near me or things to do on, this weekend around me, you can actually see that they've got an entire event section as well. So once again, great way to get some additional visibility. All right, and then the last one is your ask for more reviews. So there's an option here that says, that gives you the easy way to get a review from someone. So if I were to copy that link, and every business profile has a link that's associated with it, it never changes. If I were to put that link in directly onto Google, you'll see that it's very easy for somebody to now just jump in on their device and then say, great, I can leave a star rating and I can leave my experience here and add a photo and that's it. So back in the day, you'd have to ask people to do certain things. So they'd have to go in, they'd have to go to Google, to Maps, to find your business, go to the review section. It's a bit of a hard job. So this link is super handy. You can even create a QR code with it. My recommendation is have a link to this. You can make it a short link as well, but have a link to this and every single piece of information or contact that you have with a client after the job's been done. Put it on an invoice. Hey, we would love to get a review, a 5-star rating from you. Please click here, because people are more inclined to do it closer to when the job was completed rather than following them up a few weeks later. So hey, by the way, can you leave me a review? And everybody says yes, and nobody does it. So great way to get some quick wins in your review section. All right, I'm just looking at the time. We've got about 3 minutes. I hope that this all made sense to you so far, guys. If you have any quick questions, I'm happy to answer those. Other than that, I will put my email address in the chat, and you can reach out to me if you would like to know a little bit more, or you need some help with your Google My Business profile. In our digital solutions program, we can spend up to 3 hours actually manually getting into your specific profile. I'll leave you with one last tip. There is a tool that will help you get ranked better on Google, Google My Business specifically. So I'll put this link in the chat as well. It's called Bright Local, and I would talk more about it, but the time is up. Have a look at this site yourself. There's a lot of information about, obviously we can only cover so much in an hour, but if you go to that website, they've got a fantastic learning section that is all about, where is it? Yeah. They've got a fantastic insight section here, which is all about research. You can follow their webinars. You can learn how your local SEO, oh, what's happening? Yeah. Your local SEO, how it all works. They've done some surveys. So they have a tool as well that you can use. And one of the main things that I would use it for is local citations. Citations are essentially listings on sites like Yellow Pages, blue.com.au, and that really sort of helps you boost your ranking as well. You can't see any link. Oh, hold on. I'm sending it to the wrong section. My bad. I'll put the link in there, and I hate how Zoom does that. It automatically defaults to a private message to someone else. And I'll put this one here as well. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, cool. If there's no other questions, I'm going to have to go because I've got a call lined up in about 1 minute. I hope this was useful for you guys, that you got some takeaways from this. And once again, my email address is up there, bob@businessstation.com.au. And feel free to reach out and I'll see if I can help you. You're welcome, Alice, and everyone else. Have a great day, and I might catch you in the next one. See ya.